So hello, and thank you very much for participating in today's webinar. This webinar is about the first open call of the Horizon Europe project called ICAERUS. Let's go to the next slide to see the agenda and also to introduce my colleagues here that will also present. In the next slide. Okay, so my name is Dimitris Fotakidis. I will moderate this meeting on behalf of Foodscale Hub, who is organizing this webinar. I will talk in the last session about the push open call proposal and how we think that it should be structured, provide you some tips on how an application should be submitted. Before me, my colleague Grigoris Hadjikostas will provide an overview of the open calls of the ICAERUS project, but also explain some frequently asked questions that we have already received. Maybe they could be helpful and not raise any other questions for the same topics. But let's start with the first session in which Katerina Kasimati from Agricultural University of Athens, which is the coordinator of the project, will provide an overview of the project itself and some basic key points of what we plan to do in the period of the project. So let's move on. And Katerina, if you want, you can start.
Thank you very much, Dimitris. Welcome, everyone. Thank you very much. It's very nice to see that we actually have a lot of interest for the ICAERUS open call. For now, we're going to see just a little bit, what the project is about. And we will start from the partners of the project. So if we move on to the first slide of our introductory section, basically, ICAERUS Consortium is a collaborative effort. We are trying to revolutionize the agriculture and agribusiness sector. And the consortium consists of 13 partners from 8 European countries. And it was developed in such a way in order to reinforce the multi-actor approach. And we're trying to link partners from academia, but also research institutes, and of course from the industry as well, including drone manufacturers, service providers, and non-profit organizations. So if we see a little bit on the map, first of all, we have in the consortium 3 distinguished European research institutes and universities: the Agricultural University of Athens, who is coordinating this project, Wageningen University in the Netherlands, and the Open University in the UK, with extensive knowledge on research, of course, in the agricultural sector, but also with focus on digitization, behavioral research, and capacity building. We complement also this expertise, the academic expertise, with a lot of partners, a lot of SMEs, so industry stakeholders and technology SMEs. You can see on the map Geosense in Greece, Newsware in the Netherlands, Art21 in Lithuania, Numena in Spain, and Ecological Interaction in Estonia, as well as Agri Futura in North Macedonia. Finally, we also have, we are happy to have 4 non-profit organizations: IDEL in France, Agri-Food Lithuania in Lithuania, the Hellenic Crop Protection Association, and Foodscale Hub, of course, who's here with us today and organizing this webinar. If we move on to the next slide, we can see a little bit and we can see a few details about the ICAERUS concept. So basically, ICAERUS is trying to be a game changer, let's say, for the use of drones in agriculture, but in general in rural areas. We have identified a few challenges, like some knowledge gaps, risks, barriers associated with the use of drones in rural areas. And we are trying to tackle these challenges by developing a very specific strategy in knowledge to close the knowledge gaps, reduce the risks, scale up the adoption of drones in general. So we are beginning from the current state of the art, what's happening right now in the market. And ICAERUS is actually proposing an application-oriented approach. So you can see four main components for the project. The first one is research. So research has to do with a lot of different aspects. So research on drone innovation ecosystem, we're trying to explore different possibilities in order to use drones as multi-purpose vehicles. We are trying to assess and optimize also drone-related technologies and analyze specific standards, regulations, and risks that are actually connected with the use of drones, as well as socioeconomic and environmental effects related to the use of drones. The second part that you can see in the right top is actually the develop and demonstrate. So we are trying to develop and demonstrate multiple innovative approaches, solutions for the application of drones in various sectors. We will see in a bit the different use cases that we have in the project. And also we are trying to assess and reduce the risks that are actually connected with these activities that we will describe. The third component is to strengthen capacity. So we are developing a free open access training course and some value-added services that are going to be offered to the open call participants in order to develop fundamental skills for the use of drones. And the last, let's say, building block of this project is actually we are trying to, of course, scale up and build a European innovation ecosystem, if possible, for the drones, and develop, of course, different business and governance models related to the drones, inclusive, if possible, because this is very important. It has to take into account all the actors, and of course, scale up and increase sustainability, performance, and competitiveness in the area. If we move on to the next slide, we can see the main objective of the project. So ICAERUS is doing research and is trying to understand the potential use and also the benefits of drones, as well as also the risk associated with the drones. The goal is actually to demonstrate and support the safe and efficient use of drones in various fields that include agriculture, forestry, and rural areas. And of course, as we already mentioned, to identify potential risks that are associated with the use of drones. If we move on to the next slide, we can see a nice graphic. So this is basically the core of ICAERUS, the main idea. So basically everything will run and all the information will be available to the end user through the ICAERUS platform. So this is going to be a web-based interactive platform designed to accelerate the use of drones, and it's going to serve, let's say, as a central node for information for the project that comes from the work that we're doing, but also information dissemination, communication for the project. So as you can see in this infographic, there is like several essential elements of this of the platform. The first element is the drone market landscape. This actually provides an inventory, as we already mentioned, on current drone market intelligence. It also is going to include information on the key actors using drones and working with drones, market needs, innovations, standards, regulations, and risks. The next one, the next component is the drone data analytics library. So this is going to be an open access repository for very important, significant, existing, but also emerging drone data analytics models and algorithms. Of course, the platform is going to have information about the use cases of the ICAERUS project, but also the open call trials that are going to be selected and run through the project. And there's going to be important information about these. Of course, the socioeconomic and environmental impact assessment results are going to be also in the platform. Another element of the platform will include also inclusive business and governance models in order to empower stakeholders to explore various opportunities in the use of drones. And finally, the ICAERUS Academy, as we already mentioned, we are going to focus on this capacity building. So we are going to offer various training options, free open access online training course that's going to be produced by the Open University in the UK, and other like training workshops and value-added services for the open call beneficiaries. So if we see in the next slide, we have here an overview, again, a map, and here we can see an overview of the use cases and potential, let's say, open call trials. So ICAERUS, as we already mentioned, is adopting an application-oriented approach in order to explore the potential of drones in rural areas in Europe. So as a result, we have already selected five drone application areas that we believe they represent a significant sectoral and societal usage in Europe. So as you can see in this map, basically we have in two directions these applications. One is representing, some of them are representing actually the eye in the sky, so monitoring with the use of drones for optical observation and recording, and the other one is hand in the sky in order to be able to do some applications like spraying and goods delivery. So as you can see here, we have, we take a closer look in the different specific use cases. We have one use case in Spain on crop monitoring. The second one is in Greece on drone spraying. We have one use case in France on livestock monitoring. And then the fourth one is in Lithuania on forestry and biodiversity monitoring. And the fifth one is in North Macedonia on rural logistics. Of course, this is just the basis of the project, and we are going to enhance the research and all the activities that are going to take place for these use cases with your help through the open calls. So we are going to issue a couple of open calls, and we are trying in this way to provide financial support to third parties, and of course harvest different ideas, data sets in order to accelerate, let's say, the use of drones in Europe. And more information about this, we're going to hear during this session today in the workshop and in the next slides. That's the introduction of the project. Thank you very much. And we will be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you very much, Katerina. And based on your last comment, feel free to add any questions in the Q&A button that you can find in the below part of Zoom. Just to keep our pace, we will have for sure a Q&A session in the end of the presentation. But if we have a lot of questions, we will do another one after the session that Grigoris will start now. So if you have any questions, please write them and we will do our best to answer them today. Otherwise, all these questions will be answered and will be included in the FAQ of the open call platform. So Grigoris, if you want to continue.
Thank you, Dimitri. Thank you, Dimitri. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I hope and I wish it's the last activity of your week and you're all going to enjoy a peaceful weekend. So let us continue with the open call per se, and that's what I'm going to give today, an overview of the open calls, and later on Dimitris will get into details about how to write a successful proposal. So if to start with the presentation, let's talk about the money first. In the ICAERUS open calls, we have a little bit more than 1 million euros to give to additional beneficiaries that will join our consortium with a sub-grant agreement with us to develop together solutions that can revolutionize rural areas with the use of drones. Technically, we have two types of open calls, and each open call will have two different lots, two different iterations. There are a few good reasons for that. One is that we understand that on one hand, we need to support the technology providers, but we also need to support the end users. That's why we have two different calls. And the reason why each open call comes twice in the lifetime of the project is that all European projects, as you probably know, you have 1 year of designing them, developing them, having them under evaluation from the Commission, going to contracts. Then you start the project, so the project lasts for 3 or 4 years. In between those years, technologies change. That's what we're trying to capture here with the two open calls. We're trying to capture the new ideas, the new technological inventions that will pop up and how this can be useful. All, in total, we are going to finance 20 mini projects, FSTP, as they call them in the Horizon jargon, meaning financial support to third parties, 8 of which are going to be addressed to technology providers, while 12 are going to be addressed to end users of services, rural communities and rural communities representatives. Let's see what we can see in the next one. So first of all, let's try to talk about the push open call, the one which is for innovation development. Here, if we are talking about the deadlines, this open call has been already launched in April, and the deadline is the end of June. Oh, no, sorry, I'm looking at wrong information. Yes, sorry. So the deadline, the call has been launched in the April 2023. It's going to finance 4 open in this round and another 4 in the next round. So we have another open call on February 2024. We are going to distribute 60,000 per winner, and actually this is going to be 480,000 in total, and the projects are going to be in 3 phases. So let's see who does it target. It is targeting the technology providers. It is targeting the supply side of the technology. That's why we call them push open calls. So we're targeting drone manufacturers, AI and IoT companies, research institutes, startups, spin-offs, all the private sector, but also research organizations who develop technologies are eligible. It's a single applicant call. It has to be aligned with the call objectives, meaning, and that's very important to remember, always whatever you are proposing has to somehow benefit agriculture, forestry, and rural communities. The legal entities, the eligible actors need to be in some Horizon Europe country. You cannot submit the same proposal in other open calls. And if you are asking about our sister projects, yes, we are going to plan sessions together to see if the same proposal is submitted in all open calls. The proposed work needs to reflect work that is going to happen after the signature of the contract. We cannot finance work that has happened in the past. And of course, the submission needs to happen on time and according to the rules. So the idea here is that the people who are getting the funding will deliver and exploit drone-related data sets, but also develop ideas, concepts, and prototypes that can find their way to the market, always looking at the technology of drones and always looking at possibilities for improving the quality of life in rural areas, agriculture, and forest. Next one, please. So the date, 11th of July is the deadline for submissions. Please note the day carefully. From April to the middle to the first days of July, the open call is open. Technically speaking, from today, you have almost 1 month, which is more than enough to fill in the template and to submit a successful proposal. Then during summer, we will do the eligibility checks. During September, we will do the evaluation once everybody is back from holidays. 1 month will be the contracting. And hopefully by November 1st, we are going to start working. And we have 3 phases, one starting short, which is the design phase. Then we have another longer one, which is like for 6 months, and this is the development phase. And we have 3 months, 10th, 11, and 12, it's the market phase. Let's try to see the next one. The next one has to do with the other type of call, the pool call, which is for farming, forestry, and rural challenges. Here again, we have two calls. The first one will be launched in September, after we finish with this one, after we're back from holidays. We always try to keep you busy. And the next one will be on July 2024. 12 projects are going to be funded, 6 per open call. All in all, 300 per open call. This means 50K, up to 50K per winner. And again, similar division of time. Now, here, we are trying to put the end user in the driver's seat, in the decision-making position. So here, the beneficiary, the organization that gets the money, is the end user. That might be related to agricultural production, to environmental monitoring, to rural communities, for example. It might be some farmers cooperative, it might be some municipality that belongs to a rural area, it might be some NGO for the protection of environment that protects something in a rural area, etc. Again, single applicants, again, all the other activities apply. And here you have to utilize drones, also to buy drones, to obtain drones for individual commercial needs and for community-related issues. Individual commercial needs might be crop production, early warning system, some activity that has to do with entrepreneurial financial benefit, but it also might be some case like how can we prevent a flood? How can we save some species that is endangered in our region? All the things, how can we monitor in some the reserves of some important natural assets? All these things that have a broader societal character are also very much welcome to the extent that drones can provide the solution to those. And then, again, let's look a little bit at the numbers, at least for the first one. The open call are going to be open until the November 2023. And then we expect the first projects to start in April 24. I would like to highlight here that all this information is given without being legally binding. European Commission is monitoring our activities. At any point, they might request changes of the plans, changes of the dates, changes of the deadlines. This is something that we have to keep in mind. The only legally binding documents are the guidelines for applicants. These presentations are only for informative purposes. Next one, please. So, just to know, everything related to the open call is going to be managed by a proprietary platform called Open Call Hub that belongs to us, to Foodscale Hub. We use this also to select evaluators, to assign proposals to evaluators, but also to communicate with the applicants, with the reviewers, to select more information, to give them outcome of the results. Generally speaking, it's the one-stop shop that everything that has to do with your proposal. It's quite simple, it's easy to use, it has been tested, it has been designed by us in the sense to keep as little hassle as possible for you, so we hope it will not be a problem for you to use it. Next one, please. So, if you're planning to submit, and we hope that if you want to spend your Friday evening, afternoon with us, you're all, most likely planning to submit. First thing to do is to check the all open call documents and timeline. Be very careful to look at the eligibility criteria to make sure that you are the right people. Register in the Open Call Hub. Prepare the application with all the necessary information. Look at it twice. Ask somebody else to read it. Give it to a friend to read it with from a different eyes than yours. There are many ways that you can improve the quality of your proposal. Keep in mind that we have designed the open call so that companies themselves have good chances in writing the proposal. Nevertheless, you have every right to use experts in your region, in your team that you know you have collaborated in the past to help you make a successful proposal. But we speak with you. And after the open call is closed, there will be an eligibility check, and we will let you know if your proposal is eligible based on the eligibility criteria to enter the evaluation. And then the evaluation takes place. If to speak about the criteria, what are the criteria upon which people will evaluate your proposal? Of course, it's the concept and feasibility. It's the technology readiness and the innovation development. It's the impact and exploitation. And of course, it's the organizational capacity and allocation of resources. These are the 4 criteria. Each criteria gets marks from score from 1 to 5. For each criteria, we have a threshold at 3. It means that if you score less than 3 in any of the criteria, you're automatically rejected. You will not be able to sign a contract with us. And we also have a total 12 out of 20 points as a total overall threshold that you need to reach. And if you go below that, again, we cannot have a contract together. Let's go to the next one, please. Generally speaking, we try to follow something which is very close with the Commission rules. So technically speaking, we are having independent evaluators. We have different evaluators. There are weights in the criteria. So 40% is the confirmation of proposed targets and technology. 30% is the reliability to reach the exploitation milestones, and 30% is the viability of the proposed business model. But we have to take into account this criteria will be taken into account only in case external experts cannot reach consensus. What do we mean by consensus? Normally, external experts give their individual marks, and then we invite them in a meeting and we ask them to come up to agree on a mark. If they continue having different opinions, then we might ask for an interview for the company with the advisory board of our advisory board to see how this thing will be tackled. With respect to redress, of course, there might be a wrong procedural factual error related to the procedure or the eligibility, or some information might not be taken into account. In this case, we have every right to do a redress. Just to clarify that every request for redress will be evaluated on this basis. We cannot accept redress requests saying, I don't like the evaluation of this reviewer, his technical judgment is not sound, I don't like the way they evaluate. It doesn't work like that. We only accept redress requests only in the cases that those requests have to do with procedural or factual errors. We would never put into question the individual subjective opinion of the reviewer. This is their opinion. And so if you are planning to submit a redress request after you receive the results, make sure that you have the good grounds to do it, because otherwise it will be rejected. Next one, please. Now, as I told you, 2 different evaluators will be assigned. Each evaluator will be able to evaluate up to 4 proposals per day. Of course, some people might want to register as evaluators. I'm assuming that you would prefer to be a beneficiary, but we take very big care so that there is no conflict of interest. So practically, we ask the external evaluators to be dependent. We ask them to sign a declaration of honor. Of course, we do not accept evaluators that are related to the ICAERUS consortium. I cannot evaluate proposals. Dimitris cannot evaluate proposals. Katerina cannot evaluate proposals. On the top of that, we try always to assign, to the extent that this is possible, the proposals to evaluators from other countries. So if you are Greek, don't expect that your proposal will be evaluated by any Greeks. It will be evaluated by people in the other side, in the other corner of Europe, just to reduce possibilities of hidden love and hate relationships that exist in small ecosystems like ours. Next one, please. With respect to the implementation, just to clarify here that we do not provide advance payment. Nevertheless, the structure of the funding has designed in such a way so you receive 30% after month 2 by providing only an activity plan. Actually, we will ask you to make a very elaborate activity plan, and based on that, we will be able to give you 30% of the funding. Then you have 6 months to actually develop something, and with the deliverable of the results demonstration, you are able to also claim the other 50% of the funding. And last but not least, you will have to go for some market associated activities, promotion of your results, participation in events, business planning, marketing planning, go-to-market strategy. And with this, you will get another 20%. Just to clarify here, it is lump sum financing. It means that you are paid on deliverable basis. Of course, we ask you that in any case, do the best you can in housekeeping and record keeping of all the expenses related to the project and all the time related to the project. But nevertheless, we don't look at timesheets, we pay on deliverable. Next one, please. I will, before giving the floor to Dimitris to take you into the part which is related on how to write a successful proposal, it might be important here to mention that we would stop here to take the 2 questions, or if you have any other questions. But before doing that, let's look a little bit at the frequently asked questions as they are now on the platform and as we have answered them in the past. Zoe, please. So obviously, where to find more details, the easy one is on the website. There is a particular dedicated page related to the open call. The co-funding issue, the whole requested budget is covered by ICAERUS. However, if the applicants want to commit more funds from their own funds, or they can combine it with some private sector funding from a venture capitalist, or they can demonstrate that they are ready to make additional investments on the top of the mini grant that we are offering, then this, of course, is expected to be perceived positively by the evaluators with respect to its future sustainability. What about VAT number? Because we are asking VAT number. Yes, you need to be officially registered. In cases that there are not, you don't have a VAT number due to some legal issues. For example, in Ireland, I know some companies are not required to have a VAT number. Some registration number in the business registry of your country would suffice. Next one, please. UK remains an issue if it is eligible to participate. On paper, UK applicants are eligible to participate. We have to find out what will happen in this ongoing process about the association agreement. If finally EU and UK will sign this, then there will be no problem. If not, then we bear no responsibility as a project. We will see if the UCRI will manage to do stuff. How many applications one entity can submit? Only one can be selected for funding. If someone decides to submit more than one proposal, only the one with the highest score can be selected. If multiple versions of the same applications are submitted, only the last session will be evaluated. And also, if you submit one proposal and you are successful now, it doesn't make sense to submit in the next round again. Let some others get some funding. We want to build the ecosystem. We want to expand it as much as possible. Next one, please. No, consortia are not eligible to apply. Only single applicants are eligible to apply. Some people ask about the phase 3, what this entails. They ask, do we actually have to sell the product? Do we have to have invoices? From our part, no. It means that we are actually want to see that you have done a planning to sell the product or the service. We want to see that you have a marketing plan, that you have a business plan, that you are ready to be commercialized. Of course, these plans need to be convincing, and you need to convince us that you are really meaning business and you are really going to go to the market. And I think with this one, I have finished with my suggestions. Now is the time to answer the previous question. So the question is if whether applications on AI that are related to renewable facilities, solar farms, are in the scope of this open call. We have a very simple formula to answer ourselves. Can the proposal convince that this relates to rural communities? For example, is it really a challenge that in rural communities, the adoption of solar energy is not, solar farms, deployment of solar farms is not as effective or not as common as it could be because of the lack of maintenance? If you can prove that your solution will improve quality of life, business environment, working conditions in rural areas, and you need to convince the evaluators about that, then your proposal would be eligible. I hope I answered your question. And of course, if there are other live questions that you would like to ask now, you may feel free to ask them on the chat or anyhow, and before we can continue with the meetings. So can I take 1 minute for questions if we have? Okay, I don't see anything. Nevertheless, I will remain until the end of the show. So, Dimitri, the floor is back to you. And if there are other questions that I can be helpful, I would gladly answer.
Thank you very much, everybody. Okay, so the last part of this webinar is how to prepare successful proposal. We will go to see section per section the proposal template, and I will do my best to provide some tips in what we expect as those that structure the template. We will not be those that we will evaluate this proposal, but at least we were those that prepare the template. So let's move on to the next slide. Okay, so what is the main purpose of a proposal, of an application? Simply put, to send a clear message to the external evaluators that are going to check your proposal about your idea, but also the means to achieve whatever you will promise there. So as you will see in the next slide, we want to go from the actual idea, work, choice, people, resources in general, to a document that can clearly describe all these aspects so everybody can understand its potential. So we need to take your idea, put it in a paper, and make it as clear as possible for the evaluators to understand it and realize what you propose. Three main tips. First, read the call documents. We tried at least as possible to put a lot of details in the guide of applicants. That is the main document that you can read for preparing the proposal. Plan the key points before you write the full text. This will help you to have a clear structure. And this process is an iterative process. So as we do when we write a proposal for EU-funded projects, like when we were preparing the proposal of ICAERUS, you start, you have your ideas, you discuss it with your colleagues, and maybe you can shift a bit. So do it in steps, go from the initial idea and see how this idea can be finalized. So what is application structures? We have one part that is the online part. This is a simple form that you can find in the Open Call Hub platform, opencallhub.eu. There you can just complete some basic information, and you have to also upload a PDF with your full proposal. The full proposal combines the actual text and some information about the budget, the categorization, the justification of the cost. We will see them in detail later on. So let's move on. Okay, let's break the proposal down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different sections, chapters, the proposal template. It starts with executive summary. It's going to some general information. The proposal description is the main part. The business and the technology impact, some other aspects like the sustainability impact, for example, and the budget with the cost justification and funding. So let's see these chapters one by one. The first one is the executive summary. What we need here, we need an overview of the proposal. So main objectives, how your solution is in line with what we asked in the open call, and how your solution will help rural areas, because this is what we're trying to achieve, to help areas, rural areas, forest areas, agricultural areas. Keep in mind that this part, the first one, the executive summary, is the one that if you are among the winners, if you are an actual beneficiary and you sign a contract with us, is the part that we may disclose to the website and make it publicly available. So do not write any confidential information here. Just present your idea, an abstract of your idea. In the next one is a general information. So the all the typical details that can present your organization, like the type of applicant, your contact details, stuff, but also a proposal name and acronym in order to have it distinct from the other proposals. Again, please make sure that these information are correct. It would be very difficult to have a very nice proposal and your emails and phone numbers are wrong. I hope that this will not happen. Yeah. Proposal description. A slide before, please. Yeah. So this is the main part that you have to write the actual content of your proposal. We start from the type of applicant. Is the part that you have is simple. It's not, it's a checkbox. What is your type of applicant based on what we ask? So are you a drone manufacturer? Are you a research institute? Are you an SME, a startup, an IoT company? So you have just to give us an idea of what type of applicant are you, and of course, if you are eligible to submit the proposal. Then we go to the general idea and objectives. There are two sub-chapters here. How is your idea relevant to the call? What are your objectives? And if those objectives are clear, coherent, and we can, of course, measure them, put some KPIs. You will see here in this presentation, I will say a lot the word KPIs. So put numbers in any case that you can. What is your team? So we want to see who will work in this proposal if it is accepted. We want to see if you have actually the resources of implementing it. But also please explain who will lead the actual open call trial and who will support the leader with in which activities. And finally is expected results. So we have predefined that the results should be 3 deliverables. It's activity plan, it's the results demonstration, and a report on market associated activities. If you remember from the session that Grigoris had before, these are connected one with the actual phases. So we have one phase, the phase ends, you have to submit the deliverable, you get paid. That's the process. So here you need to explain to us the deliverables, and also if you want to add any other deliverables extra, this is also fine, but these are the mandatory to be there. You can add as many as you want. Let's move on to see the impact part. So the first one is the business impact. What we want here, we want to see what is the business challenge and the business potential of your proposal. You can explain the added value of the proposal. You can explain your business and growth model. You can explain your market penetration strategy. But how you will do it, this is up to you. We ask for a business model canvas. If you want to use another business model framework, it's also fine. But usually we prefer to have a business model canvas because probably also the evaluators will understand it more easily. But we need to see how your proposal will have business impact during the implementation, but also in the next 3 years, we say, so a short-term period at least, what your proposal will be, how your proposal will be impactful in the rural areas that we want to help during the project. If you see here also, we say, whenever possible, talk with numbers. Okay, if you can provide us with financial projections, great. If there is no actual revenue model so far, you have at least to give us an idea of what this can be in the future. But if you can put numbers, I think this will be the best case scenario, and also this will be probably evaluated from the evaluators with an extra score. But The idea here is to show how the proposal will have impact business-wise. We will go then to see the other types of impact, but for this part, I think the next slide is technology, correct? So we have the business part and then we go to the technology, meaning what is the actual technology that you are going to develop in the project. If you remember, we said that it may be just data sets, it may be some other innovations. So for example, it can be some algorithms, some models, whatever is your actual business. This is the part that you have to explain with simple terms, and if possible, you can use also graphical presentation on the actual technological part of the proposal. There is also a point here asking about the TRLs. If you are not very confident with the TRLs, this is a EU-funded terminology, but it's very simple. Is what readiness level your actual innovation is now, and what do you see as readiness level of the future? So if you are now in, for example, a very mature technology innovation, but you think that during the project, so if you get funding, you will have 12 months to work on it. During the project, this actual innovation can go to the market. What we need from you is to say that we will go to TRL 9, meaning that we will have a full working system that can go to the market and sell it. If the case is that you have some more abstract ideas that is only tested, for example, in a lab, or is a concept that you just validated with some users, you can say that we are, for example, in technology readiness level 4, and we think that we can go up to 6 or 7. In the proposal template, we have a link with the actual explanations there, so I think it would be easy to understand this, this ranking. But anyway, what we want to see is if your solution is now something that is already developed and you want to enhance it through the 12 months of the implementation, or is something that is very, very, is a concept yet, and you want to work it to make something more concrete during the project. Let's go to the next one. Okay, so the next chapter, it is called Other Aspects. The first part is about, again, the majority of the chapter is about the impact, but there are also some other points here. The first part is about environmental and sustainability impact. What I want to mention here is we really need some actual numbers. So if you can quantify your impact, this will be the best case scenario. So, okay, it may be a case that you cannot do it, but the best idea is to try and provide some KPIs about the impact of your solution in terms of environment, in terms of sustainability, and of course, provide us with some documentation of how these KPIs how you came up with this KPI. So if you say, for example, we have here 3 examples. The first one says, by using drones for spraying, the cost of fertilizers will be reduced for 10%. If you can provide such kind of numbers, I think it is great. If you can also give us a justification about it, this is the best case. So please do your best to give us numbers. Of course, it may be the case that this cannot happen, but again, we need to see how you expect your solution to be impactful in terms of the environment and the viability of the solution. The next part, in the next slide, is about impact on rural areas. So as we're discussing a lot today, ICAERUS project is very focused in rural areas. So we need to see concrete information on how the solution will address the needs in rural areas. You don't need to be located in rural areas, but your solution should be addressing the needs of rural areas. So if you can provide us with this information, and if you can also give us some hints about strategies that already exist in the areas that you want to address, it would be great. For example, we have here the 10 CAP objectives, the smart specialization strategy. The RIAS can also be another case. If you have some already policies about rural areas that are in line with what you are doing, this is the place to provide information about. Let's move on to the next slide. Okay, I think this is the last impact that we asked. It's a financial impact. So there are two parts here. The first one is to explain if there is any other funding that you have received before applying to the ICAERUS open call. Why we ask this information? This is only an indication to see if you are experienced in implementing a project, a European funded project. And if you have raised any funds from private or public entities, to see if your solution is already evaluated highly from another organization or the commission or your country or whatever. You don't need to have something to submit an application, of course. You are more than welcome to be a first-time applicant, so you don't have to have previous experience, but if you have, please write it down in order for us to be aware that you have experience in implementing projects. Of course, we need to have projects that are funded for different parts. So we will not accept solutions that are funding for the same thing will be funded in ICAERUS project. So we need to, you may have a solution, but you can enhance it through the implementation of the open call trial in the ICAERUS, and that's fine, but you cannot receive funding for activities that you have already been funded for the same exact activities. Let's move on. Okay, multi-actor involvement. This part, we want to see if you have already in your plan to engage end users to validate your solution. It is not mandatory, it is not an on-off criterion now, so you don't need to have extra applicants. If you remember, this is only single applicant, so don't expect consortia, but if you have already a plan on how you will engage end users, for example, to have small focus groups and take some feedback about your solution, how you can make it better. If you have already in your plan some motives for the actual business exploitation of your solution, this is the spot that you have to explain it. Again, if you have numbers, this is it will be ideal. For example, we have already a focus group of such many people that can validate the results of the open call trial that we're going to have. Again, if you have more concrete details, it is what we need to see, not us, the external evaluators in a way, what we need to see in order to evaluate your proposal as a mature proposal. Finally, we have some other aspects that refers to ethical issues. If you have any ethical issues that there are connected with your solution, with your proposal, please write them down just to be sure that we will take into consideration everything. But I have to inform you that since the ICAERUS project is an EU-funded project, we have to follow the EU regulations. So, for example, the GDPR should be implemented regardless of the country that the applicant will submit the proposal. So you may be in a country outside European Union, but this is something that it has to happen. You have to follow the EU regulations because the funding will come from a European Commission project. Let's move on. Okay, the last part is the budget. So the budget is, the maximum budget of a proposal is 60,000. You may ask for less if you want. If you think you don't need the 60,000, you can do it. But what we ask in the proposal template is to make, to break down the budget, first of all, in the 3 deliverable categories. So again, here we have already predefined the percentages of the deliverables of the budget of each deliverable. But if you want to go for a lower budget, you can go. You can ask, for example, 50,000 because you think that this is enough to complete your work perfectly. But you have to keep all the restrictions that are presented here, meaning that, for example, the first deliverable cannot exceed the 30% of the overall budget. So if you go for a 60K budget, the first deliverable, the first phase will be 18,000. If you go for smaller, of course, you can change these amounts, but please be careful to have a correct total amount. We have another, in the next slide, we have another table for budget. This is the justification of the cost. What we need here is to explain to us how this cost will be, why you need this cost. So you will need the cost for personnel, for travel, for equipment, for any other goods or services, for subcontracting, and for indirect cost. But we don't want to see only the numbers here. We want to see an actual justification. So why you need this kind of cost. For example, if you want to say that we want 5,000 for travel costs, the ideal justification is we need 5,000 for travel costs in order to participate in 3 events in Europe. And if you can also write the events, this is great. But if you don't know the events yet, please write the meaning of the purpose of the events. If you need to buy equipment in the category 3, please write what equipment and how much this equipment costs. This again, for each applicant, if you can add concrete numbers, concrete explanations, it would be the ideal case for the evaluator. They will see that you know what you are doing, you have everything planned, so this will be very favorable evaluated. If you see the proposal template, we have explanation for every cost type. So I assume that are clear, but if they are not, we are here to answer. But of course, the FAQ is also live in the Open Code Hub platform. So we can also, if you have any other questions, you can add them there. Okay, and finally, some additional practical information, and I think we are done. Basic boring stuff, formatting guidelines. Sorry to go to details here, but we have to keep some basic instructions. The font size should be 11 points, and the font should be Arial to the whole proposal. If you have some images, or some tables. Okay, we can, if the image has some text inside, we cannot check the font, but please try to have font size 11, spacing 6 points, single line spacing. The page size is A4 and the margin should be at least 15 millimeters. These guidelines are not ours. This is more or less the guidelines of what the Commission asks when we write a proposal. The only thing we change is the font, because we don't like the Times New Roman that the Commission asks. But the last part is the most important. The total length of the entire proposal must not be larger than 10 pages. And if we go to the next slide, this is very important, because if your proposal, the PDF that you will upload is, for example, 11 pages, whatever is written in the last page will not be considered. So the evaluators will be instructed to dismiss whatever is written after page 10. So write only what is essential for your proposal. We don't need a lot of explanation, a lot of technical explanation about your work, but we need justification for everything is there, numbers if possible, and only 10 pages. We cannot do anything. Nobody will read anything after these 10 pages. So please try to keep it, because it will be extra work for you, but it will not be evaluated. And I think that's it. We have some time to have questions. I'm seeing some questions already. I will try to answer them. So, okay, there are more or less practical questions. If we will share the slides, yes, the slides will be publicly available. Also, the recording will be publicly available. So you will have the exact presentation, and whatever we discussed today will be online. I assume that you follow us already on LinkedIn or on Facebook or on Twitter, or you're receiving our newsletter, so it will be very easy to find it. We will upload everything in our social media, so everybody can have access to this session. I hope I didn't talk too fast. If you have any other questions about what was the idea behind structuring the proposal template, we are here to help you. Of course, you can also think about any other issues that you may have and submit a question in the opencall.hub.eu. If you're not aware of it, in order to access the open call, the ICAERUS open call, the open call hub, you have to register first, and then you will see all the open calls that Foodscale Hub is managing. At the moment, you will find 2. You will go to the ICAERUS tab, and then there is the first tab is the form that you have to complete, and the second tab says FAQ. There you can submit your question, and we will do our best to answer as soon as possible. Of course, all our emails are available. You can also check in the website. We have specific emails only for the open calls, so there is a team behind that can answer your questions very quickly. That's it pretty much from me. If there are any questions, this is the time to do. Otherwise, we can close the session. Okay, I hope we don't have a lot of questions because we answered them. So I think I can thank everybody for participating. Thank you, Grigoris, for your presentation also. Here are the details of me, Grigoris, and Katerina that presented, but of course all the social media of the project. From my side, thank you very much. Grigoris.
I would like also to thank the people and wish them a nice weekend and successful proposals in ICAERUS and in other calls they're preparing. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.